I'm super excited about this process mining topic. For the last 3 years, I've had the pleasure of supporting KPMG's innovation projects around process mining and working with clients as they stand up process mining capabilities. And joining me today is my colleague, Todd Babian. He serves as a partner within KPMG's advisory practice out of Columbus. I'll let him introduce himself in a minute. We are really looking forward to this discussion. I do need to cover a few administrative items, and I apologize if this is the third time you've now heard this, so you can ignore me for 30 seconds. But during the course of the breakout, we'll be asking a couple of pulse questions. Please log into polev.com/process mining, all one word. Again, it's polev.com/process mining with the information you see on the screen. We'd be really grateful if you could participate in answering the questions. Your answers will be anonymous. We'll aggregate those results and we'll share that with you in a post-share forum thought leadership summary, highlighting key points discussed in today's share forum. All attendees will be muted upon entry to minimize background noise. Please ensure your microphone is red and remains muted. For the best experience, please turn off your video and do the following. To only see the speakers in the slides, select view on the toolbar on the top left of the screen. From the drop-down, select hide all non-video participants. For questions, if you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand. We'll try to call on you, but to be honest, we may not get time for many questions. We'll do our best to accommodate. Alternatively, you can type your question into the Q&A feature in the chat feature on the lower right-hand corner of your screen. And if you have connectivity issues, you can turn off your video to improve streaming quality or use Chrome instead of Internet Explorer. And with that being said, let's get started. So Todd, why don't you introduce yourself, and if you could just take us through the agenda and the first section of the presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Hello, my name is Todd Babian. I'm the ERP Analytics and Process Mining Center of Excellence lead for KPMG US, and I am also the executive sponsor for our Celonis Alliance for the US firm as well. And so thank you for joining us today. I think we've got a great presentation. So why don't we go ahead and get into the agenda? So today I think we have a great agenda. So item number one is we're going to talk about what is process mining and what are the benefits. We're going to talk a little bit and show you how process mining works. How can process mining support your S4 transformation? Because I think that's all we want to hear about today. Even if you are not going through an S4 transformation or already have S4 or SAP, this is for you as well. And we're going to have a call to action, and hopefully we have time for questions and answers at the end. Next slide, please. So here we have a quote from the Celonis CEO on Celonosphere just earlier this month. But this, for you that don't know what process mining is, we'll go into detail in a few seconds here. But in all my 20 years of working with outside of SAP, ramping up their solutions and making them sort of robust, I don't think I've ever seen one piece of technology that could help any business, regardless of what industry they're in, regardless of the type of outcome that they want to achieve, whether that's cost takeout, process optimization, better security controls, continuous control monitoring. This is really a foundational tool that we see is going to be the linchpin of every organization in the world going forward over the next several decades. And it's really going to change the way we do business. So we'll get into what is process mining. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So what is process mining? It really uncovers the actual process execution and drives key insights based on facts. So it's a big data technology that helps us analyze and advise how to improve and execute business processes based on the data in your ERP systems or other enterprise-grade packages, whether that be ServiceNow, Ariba, Coupa, Concur, or a whole host of other systems. So in essence, we take, the process flow is recreated so that exactly how it's working in your business. We recreate your process flow through digital footprints by taking the transactional based and activity data to recreate the actual process through dynamic process dashboards. And that's really enabled by process mining algorithms that we've developed and that other software vendors have developed as well. And what is really driving is key insights and things that were hard to get at before because we didn't have actual data. In essence, a lot of process optimization or process discovery, it consisted of workshops, manual process walkthroughs, sitting in a conference room, whiteboarding out, how we thought the existing process was works, and really only capturing what we considered sort of the happy path or the one way that we hope the transactions were going through. Well, what if I could tell you now we could peel back the layers and tell you all the variations of your process and exactly how they're flowing through your system today. So the key insights are actual process performed instead of what we believe based on true data, identification of undesired activities and changes and rework, undesired deviation, so things that are non-compliant or insufficient pass that cost a huge amount of time for our employees, throughput times, bottleneck volumes, and detailed transactions performed by users, so we can start to look at areas for improvement. Next slide, please. What are some of the benefits? So I think we categorize them in 4 easily digestible areas. So operational efficiencies and enhanced performance. So we're really using process mining to look at the existing processes, and based on our insights and understanding, look for areas where we can reduce friction inside the process, whether that's the amount of steps that it takes, the deviations in the process, or to gain to reduce the time of execution through the end-to-end processes. And this works really well, like if we're going through a new system implementation and we're consolidating SAP instances, or we want to take better advantage of the shared service model, and we have to look at how processes are performed across organizations or business units, and we want to streamline those so they're all consistent. This is a great way to do that. From an automation perspective, we're able to look at what transactions are actually done manually versus automated today. And then we try to work through the process to optimize those so we get more automation. And that could either be reworking an existing process, better defining or using configurations in SAP that are already inherent, or it might be using RPA or intelligent automation to have the system itself, like Celonis, process the transactions. We can also use it to identify data quality issues or improve our data, because we actually can drill down into the master data and any other informational data point or element to see where we might have consolidation opportunities. We might have opportunity to rework to make that more frictionless. Works really well in an S4 transformation, as we need to get those detailed insights. And then finally, one near dear to my heart is risk monitoring and control compliance. The advanced features beyond process mining and discovery that you've seen or will see in the next couple of slides is that we can automate continuous control monitoring by reviewing the transactions in real time as they're executed, and block those transactions, move them to workflow, send emails or notifications, create additional control points that were in the past very manual, and turn them into an automated control. And we think this is sort of the game changer of how businesses are going to use process mining in the future, is to be more proactive in nature, both from a control and security perspective, but also the using the alerts to proactively manage operations. And with that, I'm going to turn it to Renee for our first polling question.
If everyone can navigate to Poll Everywhere, again, it's www.pollev.com/process mining. And it looks like the answers are coming in. We have about 70% for E, none, and then about 27% right now, constantly changing, but about 25% for A. Majority is still at E, though.
Okay, yeah, pretty similar to our last breakout session. Pretty consistent with what we're seeing in the market as well. So a lot of companies starting to dip their toe in the water. If they are dipping their toe in, it's typically with Celonis, but seen a lot of innovation there with some of the RPA vendors and even some of the ERP vendors incorporating and integrating process mining capabilities. So thanks, Renee, for facilitating that. Let's move on to the next slide. So to dive a bit deeper into how process mining works, really what we have here on the left-hand side is, as transactions are processed across your enterprise business critical systems, digital footprints are created and fed. So what people are doing, when they're doing it, what they're doing. Those digital footprints are fed to a central process mining software platform. The process mining algorithms in that software will automatically reconstruct that data using the digital footprints as building blocks. And then what happens is it creates a full dashboard view of how processes are executed in real or near real time. What we're seeing is there's a ton of innovation and investment happening across the industry. And so even though this is kind of the core capability of process mining tools, we're seeing a lot of other expanded features and capabilities coming to market quickly. For example, combining process mining with automation and RPA functionality, combining it with advanced predictive process analytics to drive more efficient business execution, and also with AI tools. So let's maybe just move to the next slide. We'll spend a minute on process analysis. We all know that even if we're going through a greenfield or a net new transformation program, it's important to understand the current state of your business. Performing process analysis is really a key aspect of any transformation or improvement program. And process mining tools allow us to rethink, right, how this has been done traditionally. So Todd mentioned, the typical process walkthrough approach, workshops, process mapping exercises. We're using whiteboards, flowcharts, narratives. We all know those exercises are tedious, they're time consuming, they're really inherently biased based on the understanding of each individual contributing to those discussions. The process that's being described, and a lot of times where that's documented, is not always the process that's being followed. So with process mining software on the right-hand side here, we capture all the event data from key systems. The software automatically creates those digital process flowcharts. And then the focus of those types of meetings, those workshops, design sessions, walkthroughs, we can cover the actual process data, the actual transaction flow. We can focus on deviations and risks, which can be incredibly powerful and eliminate the wasted time of going through the standard process. And with that, let's move on for a minute. We want to show you a few examples of how process mining technology works. The screenshot on the slide here is from our demo environment. We'd love to do a demo for you today. Unfortunately, we aren't able to showcase a live environment on this session. But I just want to walk you through a few screenshots to show you the core capability of the tools. This one really highlights the process discovery, mapping, and analysis capability at the core of process mining. In the center of the screen, you see a standard process path for procure to pay. If you look at the heavier blue line down the middle, that's really the most common variation of the process, or what we call the happy path. And you can see on the right-hand side that the most common variant of the process, that middle blue line, happens about 40% of the time in this process. But as you scroll down and you pull down to the first 5 variants there, you can start to see deviations to the procurement process, such as price changes or an extra step needed to confirm an order. And while 75% of these processes are covered in the first 5 variants, you can see about 15% of the transaction volume translates to an additional 644 variants. So in our experience working with the software and working with clients, it's very common to see well into the thousands of variants that happen with a typical SAP system. So it's interesting. You go in, get in a walkthrough, you get their documentation. It says, this is our process. You look at the data and you start to see many, many variants at most companies. On the left-hand side here, you can see a powerful filtering tool. You can drill into other components of this process steps, such as throughput time that Todd mentioned, or automation rate. Very quickly, you start to see a really clear end-to-end view of the mega process, and you're able to drill into specific deviations, specific metrics to understand how the process works. Moving to slide 12, process mining tools have great features for benchmarking. We're able to benchmark against leading practices, and we're able to benchmark against different business segments or organizational elements of your company. And it can help us determine how standardized are we, how efficient are we, within the various parts of our company. In this example, we have an SAP client. We are comparing 2 company codes, and we can see some very interesting metrics. At first glance, it looks like the company on the left-hand side, the company code, is less complex, fewer variations. That said, you can see on the second company code on the right-hand side, it's more automated. right? Much higher automation rate. They have a faster throughput time. They're more efficient. They have fewer price changes. So when we get this kind of information, it's really helpful when we're making decisions about future state processes and where to start deploying new technology. And then we can use that to do ongoing monitoring against a standard process design. Moving to the next slide, we wanted to just highlight a few of the other use cases. KPMG has invested heavily in the technology. We have hundreds of apps that we've developed across the globe now as a firm. We're deploying them really across various industries, really the gamut of most business and IT processes. We can do this. We're seeing companies start out in those typical areas where we know there's value to uncover, right? Purchase to pay, record to report, AP, AR, cash management, those sorts of things. But once we're realizing value there, we're seeing it scale quickly to other use cases. Deployment models vary as well, but typically we're seeing some sort of a COE type model stood up, a process mining capability where you have a center of excellence. You can develop client specific or company specific apps and capabilities. They can provide that process mining as a service to the business, and we perform that for companies as well as a service. So with that, Renee, why don't you take us through the next polling question, please?
The poll is active. And it looks like majority is A right now. A and B are kind of fluttering between the top answers with a few for each of the other choices.
Great. Well, in the interest of time, let's move on. You will get the results of those polling questions in the post-session materials. I want to move on a little bit to take a little bit more of a transformation lens on this. How does this apply to what we're doing with SAP? We all know that every company in every industry is trying to digitally transform themselves. We're all trying to standardize. We're trying to automate. We're trying to drive innovation, to fail fast, to continuously improve. This includes not just ERP, right, but also other automation initiatives such as RPA and low-code platforms. But we also know from the research that the majority of ERP projects experience failure at some level. We see a lot of programs taking a lot more time than anticipated, and they're costing a lot more, going over budget. And there's a lot of complexity within these programs, not only within the IT systems and the data, but also with the people aspect, the processes aspect, the regulatory security governance components as well. And so our goal as a professional services firm is to help our clients drive innovation and transformation more intelligently. So we believe process mining is really key to any transformation. And as we move to the next slide, we're starting to really drive more analytics and process mining throughout any ERP transformation program to make the journey easier, to reduce risk. Specifically for S4 transformation programs, a lot of opportunities there to accelerate and drive value. So, for example, in the early phases of a program, there are typically numerous upfront blueprinting and fit gap workshops, interviews to determine the approach, to make design decisions. Process mining analytics can make those sessions much more data-driven and informed. We can use process mining to quantify the benefits of a transformation, the potential and desired return on investment that we're going after, and then to monitor against that ROI over time throughout and after the implementation. We can use it to help automate the monitoring of the system after go live, the effectiveness of the go live, the adoption of the businesses going onto the system against the gold standard process design. We can monitor risks and control performance and just monitor the overall quality of execution of each business segment. So Todd, with the few minutes we have left, I'd love you maybe just to weigh in for a minute here. I know you're talking to clients every week about their S4 programs, the challenges they're facing. What are you hearing from your clients, and how do you think process mining can be helpful?
Well, I think thanks, Jeff. I mean, what I said earlier is I haven't seen a technology this impactful or adopted faster in the marketplace than this process mining technology. Once people see it, they see the power and the different use cases that they can immediately deploy. I would like to highlight, the value Jeff talks about here really is throughout the whole implementation lifecycle or transformation program that you're going for. I think the two things I hear is any hesitancy is I hear that our data quality isn't good, and then that is the first impediment. But these technologies actually solve for part of that issue is because you don't need your data all in one location. Process mining technologies, the more advanced solutions, allow you to connect and download data from multiple sources of information, and then allow that information to dictate, your informed decision, whether that's redesign of the process, process optimization, or how we want the new system to function. It also can help us cleanse the data because we're giving context to data that I think in the past when people did data quality initiatives, they're downloading a bunch of data, they're looking for duplicates, but we're actually able to see the data in the context of the business process, which makes it much more relevant. So we think it's imperative that the data quality shouldn't scare you away from using process mining early and upfront in a project or transformation. I also hear that, hey, I'm gonna, process mining sounds like a great idea, but I'm gonna wait till after go live. And we're actually seeing it, the benefits throughout the entire life cycle. So I talked about sort of the upfront process of the design and informing better processes. I talked about data quality, but also in the testing phases as we start to run transactions through the data, we can through the systems that are going to be deployed, we can actually see how close we've come through the data modeling options within inside the software to see if we're in compliance or conformance with our target operating model or how we think the system's going to operate. Then we can make tweaks to do what if analysis to see if we make minor tweaks, can we even tighten up the information or the process flows further? And then ultimately after go live, we can look for, conformance to how well we did against our business objectives based on the KRIs and KPIs that we can measure with real transactional data with dollars associated with it and other items. And then finally, continuous control monitoring, as we kind of mentioned, and monitoring the operations of your business are extremely powerful with this technology, and really is sort of the gold standard. I think that how these programs are going to be optimized and going forward.
Great, thanks for that. It makes a ton of sense. We even have a client that we'd worked with. They're going through a multi-year. They're a multinational oil and gas company going through a multi-year ERP consolidation journey. They estimate that process mining alone, as we've been working with them, has saved them about $40 million on their consolidation program. And I think they estimate there's upwards of about $150 million of savings that they anticipate realizing as they drive this program to completion. So very exciting stuff, and it's real dollars once you start adding things up. I wanted to maybe just take a minute to flip through a few screenshots of some apps that we've developed specific to the S4 migration journey. The one you have on the screen here is a process complexity assessment, again, for pre-migration to get a better understanding of the complexity of the current state. So if you have ECC systems today or other technologies, you can pull data into this, get a better picture of how standardized different company codes, different regions of the world are, different plans, different other organizational elements. You can break it down and understand, where are we following a standard process? How costly is that process? What are the gaps to standard, and how conforming are these different elements of the company? So a lot of powerful information here that you can use to inform your design, your roadmap for your rollout of your S4 system. Moving to the next one. This one is around transaction code usage analysis. So you're familiar now with kind of the base capability of the process mining tools. We have developed a custom app on Celonis that actually maps out all of the transaction codes within an ECC or an S4 environment. So you can get a quick look and a view into, where are we using standard T codes? Where are we using custom T codes? What do we need to account for as we drive to an S4 program? Next, we have an adoption monitoring app. This is really more for post-migration. We can monitor process adherence. So how well is each segment of the business adhering to the standard process design? How much rework is happening? how much is that costing us, and which regions of the world is that happening in. So pretty powerful app to monitor adoption of the new technology and the new process over time. And then finally, we have a pre and post migration comparison app. So in this case, it really helps you measure your ROI. So you can see, hey, we have the complexity from 655 variants to 337. We increased automation rate from 48% to 62%. We're more efficient by reducing throughput time by 3 days. We're reducing, changes to the process. We're increasing conformance, et cetera. So some really powerful pre and post migration metrics and dashboards to help you quantify the return on investment. So with that, I know we're about up on time here. Todd, why don't you close us out? We're not going to have time for questions, unfortunately, but why don't you close us out with a few items to consider as we adjourn?
Thanks, Jeff. Once again, thanks for joining us this afternoon. I just have 4 key takeaways that if you're considering the use of process mining in your ERP transformation journey, we really think it's a game changer. I think we showed that a little bit today. If you're interested in a demo or how this technology could help you, feel free to reach out to us. How do you, utilize process mining to drive change in your processes and controls? I think the gold standard is using data, obviously, instead of anecdotal evidence. Process mining finally gives us the ability to see the data and then present it in a way that business people make sense of it through our processes and our controls. It gathers all the lines of defense, both first, second, and third line have the ability to use this. So what we're seeing is once you get a successful use case or two under your belt, that really the adoption of throughout the organization, throughout the entire business, whatever your mandate is, it really the uptick is pretty quick. The ROI is fast, and make process mining a key enabler to your journey to analyze, improve, and drive change throughout your organization continuously. I think it's not just a one-time exercise, but this is finally the ability to do really continuous control monitoring, both operationally, controls, and otherwise. So once again, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.